Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Al-Mawrid dialogue, in which we are bridging gaps between Christianity and Islam. So we're very pleased to welcome Charles de Guigné and Dr. Khalid Zaheer. Dr. Khalid Zaheer, as you all know, is a prominent scholar of Al-Mawrid, and we're here today to have a conversation and dialogue to discuss a few things, and we really hope that you enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you very much.
Okay, so should I make the beginning?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We normally start our proceedings by making this statement, which is in the Quran. What it means is we begin in the name of the God whose mercy is profound, immense, whose kindness is forever. The first of the three 10 minutes or less presentations that I'll make is going to be on the commonalities that are there between Islam and Christianity, as I understand. That's a very important disclaimer, as I understand, right? The first, in my opinion, talking to Christians, and I'm sure talking to any other religious person belonging to other religious backgrounds, what I would like to say is that the first common point between us is that we have a strong yearning to know what the truth is.
I hope
if
so.
That's not there, there's no point in being a religious person. Honestly, we should be doing something else, playing baseball or something else. So the first common point I hope that we share is that we are dedicated to the cause of knowing what the truth is. Okay, the understanding is a bit vague, but the spirit is there. We want to know what's the truth. Number two, it's true in the case of Christians as well as all others that we have the same ancestors, thankfully. Adam and Eve, and created by the same creator, our God Almighty. So, don't underestimate this commonality. It makes us feel closer to each other. What I feel that we have in common with Christianity in addition is that we both believe in one God. The understanding of that God has its own details where we might disagree, but our commitment to the understanding that the God is one and not several is what we share. And there is this understanding that we share that this life is not the only life, the only opportunity to exist that we have. After death, we do not perish. Instead, there is another life after this life, which I'm sure we both have in common. Then another important commonality that both traditions, faiths share is a very strong emphasis on morality. We both promote the cause of all humans to be morally upright, to make sure that all ethical, moral principles are acknowledged and they are taken seriously. So we get upset if people are immoral, and that is what concerns both traditions. In addition, what we share between us is that we have a strong, deep love and reverence for all those humans who were chosen by our Creator to guide human beings. We call them prophets. Sometimes they are referred to as messengers. In particular, I think both traditions have a very strong reverence, love, and respect for Abraham, followed by many other prophets, Moses, and we believe, and we'll talk more about it, Jesus to be amongst them as well. A very strong feeling of love, reverence, and respect for him, as well as his mother, Mary. We also share the understanding that Jesus was born miraculously. It didn't take the normal form way of birth that happens to us mortals. Mary was a virgin, and she gave birth to Jesus, and this happened miraculously. Most of the stories that are mentioned in the Quran are the stories that are mentioned in the Bible, Old Testament. Some are referred to in the New Testament as well. So, all in all, when you talk about commonalities, we have a lot to share. And I think there is another important thing that both traditions share is that we are concerned about the growing tendency amongst people, particularly the youngsters, towards atheism. We would like people to be drawn towards God, the Creator, and to not just acknowledge Him, but lead a life wherein our God, our Creator, is at the very center of our thoughts, our prayers, and our different approaches towards life. So I think all these points together, I'll just mention them once again briefly. Strong yearning for the truth, same ancestors, same Creator. We believe in one God, both of us, and life after death. And there's strong emphasis on morality, deep love and reverence for prophets, Abraham, Moses, Jesus. Jesus was born miraculously to a virgin mother, Mary. And most stories of the Quran are the stories that are also mentioned in the Old Testament and the New Testament. That's all from me.
All right. So thank you for sharing that. You took all my point. So I naturally come in agreement with everything that you said. And so I think I will be a bit shorter because you already mentioned almost everything. But I will add the factor as well that both religion, we have a deep zeal for what we are believing. And I think, and you mentioned that in first, and it was one of my points also for today, that we have one truth and we want the truth. And so as for that, we put our belief in whatever we are believing and believing in what is the truth, and we are deeply engaged in that sense about that. So it's one community that we have also together. I can add as well that both religion have the principle of prayer, of worshiping one God, and we are dedicated to that. So yeah, I think you already said everything. So
Okay.
yeah.
So let's move on to the second point then, which is probably a little more difficult. But I must confess that it was an unplanned and unnecessary advantage that I had to start the proceedings, because when we are talking about commonalities, obviously the commonalities have to be the same.
Yeah.
So if you have spoken less, it's understandable. But in the next one, I'm not saying I hope you speak more, but that's going to be the case when we talk about the differences. Before I talk about the differences, I would like to just mention my understanding. I don't know why I want to call it a theory, but it's an understanding. We humans, we have lots of differences, whether we are talking about religion, politics, culture, etc. In order for us to do well as humans living together, I think the more serious, deep the difference is, the more important it is that we be polite. Because let's face it, I mean, it's already in the nature of differences that when you're talking to each other, I mean, you are tense. I mean, you are uncomfortable. I'm talking about something that you like, you are emotionally attached to, and I'll be talking something negative about it. And likewise, you will do it. So, while we are acutely aware of the fact that what we're going to be doing is going to be, let's face it, negative in nature, we need to do it politely and we need to do it academically. Just put across your understanding. If you have any arguments, just present those arguments. Let's not be too emotional about it, because it's already in the nature of this kind of a discussion that there is a difference. So let's make it as less problematic as could be possible. So after this brief introduction, let me say this, that the first difference that I think we have with the Christian faith is the difference on the question of divinity of Jesus and Mary. While we Muslims who believe in the Quran and Islam and the teachings of Islam, we believe that Jesus Christ was one of the most prominent prophets and messengers of God. In our opinion, he was the last of the prophets and messengers amongst the children of Israel. I'm sure the Christian understanding is different. Likewise, in the case of Mary, we believe that Mary was an outstanding, pious woman. There's a chapter that the title of it is Mary, Maryam, and she gave birth to Jesus Christ. She was a virgin, and the Almighty picked her because of her outstanding personality, her piety, her devotion to the house of God in Jerusalem. So that's one area where we disagree. The second area, probably linked with the first one, is the concept of Trinity. So we do not think that the understanding of Trinity as Christians have in their beliefs is what is acceptable to us. So that happens to be another area of difference. Third area of difference of understanding is that while, as I understand, the Christianity as it stands today focuses on morality, which is what, as I mentioned, Islam also is extremely interested in. But quite apart from morality, there is another part of religion, religious teachings called the law. We call it Sharia. We believe, we understand that before the Sharia law mentioned in the Quran, there was this law, Sharia, that was mentioned in the Old Testament, Torah. So when Christianity got itself separated from Judaism, from the teachings of Moses, Christianity chose not to go the way of the law. So you believe, you understand that the law of Torah, which you believe was the law coming from God, is not applicable to you. What we understand in the Quran is that the Quran comprises of both kinds of teachings. It has morality component in it as well, which is the most significant. But there is the other component, which is the law, the Sharia, which is where we disagree, because in the case of Christianity, we think that the Christian understanding is not inclined to accept the law, which is for us the Sharia. Another area where we do significantly disagree is the area of accepting and acknowledging Prophet Muhammad, may God's mercy be on him, to be also a prophet of God, the last prophet of God. Jews and Christians, they do not accept him as a prophet of God the way we want them to accept him. There is a trend now amongst some Christians. I'm not too sure whether all Christians have the same view, but the understanding of some Christians, there was a time when the Pope in Rome also mentioned, probably it was in the late 60s, that they acknowledged that Prophet Muhammad was a prophet of God, but only for the children of Ishmael. So there is this tendency as well. However, this happens to be an important difference. What we feel is that not only that Prophet Muhammad is the prophet of God, the last prophet of God, his mention is there in the Bible as well. And he came as a result of the prophecies that were there in the Bible. So quite apart from the prophecies that are there in the Old Testament, we believe that there are prophecies in the New Testament as well. And this is going to be my last point. For instance, in the Gospel of John, chapter 16, verses 4 to 11, there is a mention of what is mentioned in English translations, a comforter. But it is said in Greek, it is paraclete, farkalit, which is translated into Arabic and other languages would mean the one praised. Now, the one praised, if you have an Arabic equivalent of it, that is Muhammad. That is what it actually translates into as a word. The other last thing that I would mention is in the Gospel of John is in the first chapter towards the end, when John the Baptist is inquired by some Pharisees and Levites who he was. He said, I am not the Messiah, I am not Elijah, nor I am the prophet. So what we believe is that at the time of the arrival of John the Baptist, the Jews were waiting for three people from God: Jesus the Messiah, Elijah, and the prophet. And we believe the prophet who was awaited was Prophet Muhammad. I hope I have not gone beyond my...
Really good with time.
Okay.
Okay, nice. I think the discussion will be very interesting. And I think I have some answer to give you. I'm not sure if it's during that first session or maybe the second one. So I will go on the base because there are many topics and points that you touch who are very amazing and interesting. And I think we'll discuss a little bit about that in the next session. So this is the difference that we have. I can add also maybe on that, and I think it's an aspect with very Christian, and I will be interested to understand your perspective, the Muslim perspective about the blood of Jesus, and the blood, even in general, the blood that we have, that the blood of animals, the blood of human, and the blood of Jesus Christ, because it's the foundation are very important to understand many things through that. And on my perspective, I cannot say it's a difference that we have between Christian and Muslim, but I'm not sure that Muslim even question them about that, the importance of the blood. And we can talk about that a little bit after. And the other differences that we can have, it's also, I'm saying that the gospel is the truth. You are saying that the gospel is corrupted. And on my side, I don't accept that the Quran is the word of Allah, like the Quran is actually. And you do, which is okay for me. It's not a debate, but it's a difference that we can have. And also some differences can be also on the discernment, the perspective about some scriptures, and a point that I will have about that will be like how we discern things, from where, from what, from who. And that is, I think, a point which is very misunderstood on my perspective by Muslim, and which is very also important. I think what you resume, your point, which I think again I agree with those differences, and yeah, you know, I wrote on my notes different practices, some basic things, the way how we worship, the way how we pray, the person to who we pray, all those things. And in Christianity, we have many, if I can say, principles that we have to follow, to respect. And I think that there are many areas who are like under the shadow, and who it will be interesting for Muslim to learn and research about those things, because it's bringing a lot of I don't want to say knowledge, but more like revelation about those things. And yeah, basically, I think our difference are there, and I think that our difference is not really like you say yes, I say no. That is what we see on YouTube, but which can be true or not. I'm not coming in that discussion, but I think there are just different aspects that we miss. We bring a lot of answer, and I think that is also a problem. We bring a lot of differences, and we have a lot of differences between our religions, for sure. But there are so much more. We try too much to do that. But if we just take another angle, the other angle don't bring another. We are still not in agreementation on those things. But when we see that by another angle, the perspective can change. And I think, in general, one difference that we have is the perspective of how we are looking things, what we are looking for. So that will be my point. Yeah.
Okay. So that brings us to the third part.
Yeah.
How to live with mutual respect. The questions that are being raised, it's going to be your responsibility to ask. And what we'll do is that they'll ask us and we'll respond.
Yeah.
Right? How to live with mutual respect. One of them is highlight the commonalities.
Absolutely.
And jointly work on those commonalities. Talk about them. Let people know that, there's a big area where we agree. There are areas of disagreement, but let's focus on the areas where we agree. And I already mentioned that when we are talking about differences, let's talk about them politely. Why? I've already mentioned, because, it's so very important that when we both are trying to find the truth, the ultimate truth from our Creator, and we've got differences in some matters, I must understand you without doubting your intentions and without necessarily concluding that you are wrong and I am right. It's difficult, but I think this is what needs to be taught to religious people, which is what is missing. We must learn to listen to the other person with an empty mind, which is, Charles, something that doesn't happen. I am listening to you with a Muslim mind. Some people might say, well, that's natural. No, sorry. I have to listen to Charles by telling myself that here is somebody who believes that what he has is the truth. So let me understand what he's saying, right? Thereafter, I just try to work out. So I think that's something we must learn and work on. We must also, I'm talking about mutual respect and understanding, know our limitations. I must know my limitations. I must know that what I believe to be the truth is likely to be the influence of my environment, my parents, and the way I was brought up. Let's face it. You see, people living in different parts of the world, most of them are what they are in their religions. Hindus, Christians, Jews, etc., Chinese. Why? Because they were born in that background. So, when I am talking about the truth, and I'm trying to let you know about my side of the understanding of the truth, I must realize that my understanding has a very strong influence in the manner I was brought up and in the environment I was brought up. Let's face it, we get influenced by humans, by personalities, and what they say, we think that they're right. So I think this limitation should always be there in our mind. Thinking positively about the other people. I must tell myself over and over again that the other person, Charles, is as passionately involved in his point of view, his understanding and faith, as I am in my faith. What is his fault? And from his point of view, what is my fault? I mean, we are what we are because that's how, our environment and situation probably would have caused us to become. Or could we be otherwise? You see, one of the problems with religious people is that they think that the other person is thinking the way he's thinking, not because he's doing it honestly, but because he has some malified negative intentions, negative objectives. So I think this positivity, the approach of looking at the other person with a positive understanding is important. I think there's another very important thing that we need to have to grapple with, which is the difficulty, the problem of conversions. It's a very huge matter. It's a big issue. When different people of different faiths, they come together, they interact, I have no problems if you try to influence me with your point of view. Why? Because you think what you have is the truth. And what I believe is my truth. So while we are engaged in a discussion and I get influenced by you and I convert, it should not be seen as a problem by my community and likewise by your community. That's not what the case is. I know it's not easy, but I think we must work on it. It's not easy for a community to learn about the fact that one of their members has moved on to the territory of the other understanding. But this is a big problem and it really needs to be sorted out by discussion, by understanding. I think we can do well to meet more frequently. Let it not be the one and the only meeting. So Muslims and Christians should meet frequently to be able to have a discussion, dialogue, and understanding with each other. I would also mention the need for a platform, common platform. And I will give the example of what people in High Wycombe, it's It's a county next to London, where I've been there 3 or 4 times. They've got this CCMR, Council of Christian Muslim Relations, and they're doing wonderfully well. Whenever I've gone there to make some kind of presentation, I've found that if there are 20 participants, 10 of them are Christians, 10 Muslims. So I think this again is a good idea, that we have some joint ventures, platforms where we have discussions, we have speakers, where presentations are made, and the participants ask questions. That's all from me.
Thank you for sharing. So the question is how live together with some mutual respect. And I think my first answer will be like to have a dialogue with establish. It's something which is very important because today there are a lot of non-understanding aspect of each other. So we have some, I don't know say how we say that in English, but when I think something about somebody, but I don't know the truth about him. And I think both religions have a lot of that about each other. And I think the dialogue is something who, like you say, have to be bold. And I actually appreciate and actually like the idea of having a platform to discuss and to discuss with good argument, good content, if I can say like that. And something else also can, I think, help us. I come from Switzerland, and in Switzerland, in school, we are like the first school until we have like 12, 16, we learn about religion. And Switzerland is a Protestant country, but we learn principally about Protestant, and it's 50% about Christianity and 50% about Islam. And it's something that we teach in school for everyone. It's some courses who are not obligated by the program, by the government, but in general everybody participate. And I cannot say it's not an imam who teaches Islam, and it's not a pastor who is teaching Christianity. It's a teacher who is really basic and it's not really deep, but it's helping, I think, each other to understand those things and aspects, and it's helping us to have some topic of discussion and question ourselves. And one thing will also help us, I think, to be respectful. It's also to be open and willing to question ourselves. And because today, in many domains, I don't know if domain is English, but in many areas, we don't really question ourselves. We just get some teaching from whatever, and we don't encourage people to grow and to push that understanding. And it's something on what we should work, and we'll bring a lot of good things about that. After, like you said, the respect of our differences, but again, those respect coming by the fact to have a discussion. Because if we, it's like the racism. If I come from a white family, if my parents roast me and say black people, they are nothing and just underdog, okay, in my head, those people are just nothing. But if there are an explanation and something to help us to grow, it's make a big difference as well after when we are adult. And I hope my point was clear enough. Another thing is to be tolerant with each other, because to come back again, we have one truth, but we have no tolerance for each other. And personally, on my perspective, I don't believe that God is a God of tolerance. He's a God of forgiveness. But as human, we have to have some tolerance and understanding with each other to live together, because we are not here for for the war, and I don't believe that is the purpose of God to kill His own creation. Whoever is God, if it's Jesus Christ or Allah. So I think it's things who are very important. I believe as well that we can work on many things together. I believe both religions love people and want to serve people. And I think it's something where we see that, if I'm working with a Muslim as a Christian organization, if I'm working with a Muslim organization, it's not something that we truly put in first. If we just look basically, if we can do that, and I believe that together we can be stronger, but we'll be faced to a reality. We are doing things to win souls for God, because like we said in the first question, we believe in eternity. So they will have a barrier about that. But I believe that there are some activities that we can do together, and will bring that understanding with each other. Yeah, I think I'm done with those points.
Good.
Yeah.
So we are now into the more problematic part of our presentation, which is question answers.
The more passionate.
Yeah. So can we open the house? And
I think so, yes.
yeah. Do we have the option of people writing as well?
I did provide the option.
Okay.
I haven't
It's either of the two, is possible. You can write, you can speak. The only thing you can't do is to say quiet. That's not allowed. That's not allowed.
If anyone prefers writing